What if the people sworn to protect you were the ones who let you down? In a small town where racism has been a persistent issue, with over 20% of residents reporting racial profiling by law enforcement, a shocking tragedy unfolded. The sheriff's own daughter lost her life because the subordinates, driven by racial bias, stopped the best doctor from treating her. This heartbreaking story raises tough questions about trust and justice. As we delve into this true crime case, we invite you to share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. The Sheriff Department has faced criticism for racial disparities, with African American residents being 3 times more likely to be stopped by police. How can such systemic issues be addressed? Let's explore this tragic event and its aftermath, and we'll be right there with you in the comments to discuss your insights. If you are enjoying this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, literally anywhere in the world. Also, hit that subscribe button to stay updated, and drop your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Thanks for being here. As the investigation into the sheriff's daughter's death began, it became clear that racial bias had played a devastating role. The doctor who was stopped, Dr. Amina Caldwell, was a renowned specialist in emergency medicine. She had been on her way to the hospital when she was pulled over by the sheriff's deputies. Despite explaining the urgency of the situation, Dr. Caldwell was detained for over 20 minutes, a delay that proved fatal for the sheriff's daughter. The community was shocked and outraged by the news. Many residents had long complained about racial profiling by the local police, but this incident was particularly egregious. It highlighted a systemic problem that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Statistics showed that African American drivers were more than twice as likely to be stopped by police in this area compared to white drivers. This wasn't just a matter of numbers. It was about lives lost and families torn apart. The sheriff, Michael Grayson, who had always prided himself on being a fair and just leader, was faced with an unimaginable personal tragedy. He had to confront the fact that his own team had contributed to his daughter's death. This internal conflict was evident as he spoke publicly about the incident, expressing both grief and a deep sense of responsibility. He vowed to take immediate action to address the racial biases within his department, but many wondered if it was too little, too late. As the investigation progressed, it revealed a culture of racism that went beyond just a few rogue officers. There were stories of other incidents where racial bias had influenced police actions, often with severe consequences. The community demanded change, calling for reforms that would ensure such tragedies never happened again. They wanted accountability, not just for the officers involved, but for the entire system that allowed this to occur. The case sparked a national conversation about racism in law enforcement and the need for systemic reform. Experts pointed out that addressing these issues required more than just disciplinary actions. It demanded a fundamental shift in how police departments were trained and held accountable. The sheriff's daughter's death became a catalyst for change, but the journey ahead would be long and difficult. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think needs to be done to prevent such tragedies in the future? Should there be stricter policies against racial profiling, or perhaps more community involvement in policing? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and we'll be there to engage with you and explore these important questions further. As time passed, the town continued its slow but steady transformation. The changes within law enforcement were not just about policies on paper, but about shifting mindsets and breaking down long-standing barriers. Officers attended mandatory workshops on racial bias and cultural competency, often engaging in difficult but necessary conversations with the very community members they once alienated. Dr. Amina Caldwell, who had once been unjustly detained, became a trusted advisor in these efforts. She worked closely with local leaders to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. For her, this fight was personal, but it was also about ensuring a safer future for everyone. Still, not everyone embraced the changes. Some officers resisted, claiming that the new policies made their jobs harder. A few left the force altogether, unwilling to accept the shift in expectations. But as new recruits joined, trained under a more community-focused philosophy, the department began to look and feel different. The biggest test of progress came when another high-stakes emergency unfolded. A black paramedic, rushing to the scene of a multi-car accident, was stopped by officers who claimed they had mistaken his vehicle for a stolen one. But this time, the situation didn't escalate. Instead of an unnecessary delay, the officers quickly verified his identity and let him through, offering an apology for the inconvenience. It wasn't perfect, but it was a sign that things were changing. The community took notice. Trust, which had once been shattered, was slowly being rebuilt. At town hall meetings, residents voiced their concerns, and, for the first time in years, they felt heard. Michael Grayson, the sheriff whose daughter's death had sparked this movement, continued to push for reform. He had once been blind to the extent of the problem within his own department, but now he was at the forefront of change. He met with other law enforcement leaders, urging them to examine their own practices and biases. Yet, progress remained fragile. Neighboring towns with similar issues had not yet undergone the same transformation, and cases of racial bias in policing still made national headlines. Some feared that without constant vigilance, old habits could return. Despite these concerns, there was hope. The town had proven that change was possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. What had started as a tragedy had turned into a movement, one that had rippled beyond its borders. Now, we turn to you. What lessons can be learned from this town's journey? Do you think meaningful reform in law enforcement is truly achievable? What steps do you believe are most effective in ensuring lasting change? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going.